minute. Many of you know I'm wrapping up a series I've been in talking about how to survive the caves of life. This series was inspired by the recent event in early July where there were 12 boys and their coach that were trapped in a cave in Thailand for 17 days. All of them made it out successfully. And so we begin to talk about some of the ideas, some takeaways from that we believe are in Scripture as well. And so we're going to wrap that up today, but I want to go at it from a different angle. I want to talk to you about how you can help others survive the caves of life, how you can help others. One of the backstories behind this great rescue is a man by the name of Elon Musk. Maybe you've heard of Tesla or SpaceX. Elon Musk is the owner of those two companies. And he heard about, just like we did, he heard about on the news these 12 boys and their coach. And so he began to look at the abilities that he has, the unique resources and technology that he has access to. And he began to think about what could he do to help rescue these boys. So he pulls together some of the greatest minds that work for him. He has access to some of the rarest materials. And they begin to work on a solution. And the solution that they came up with was a very special submarine that would be able to get into the kind of scenario that these boys were in and could be a life-saving vessel. Once the submarine was complete, Elon Musk personally flew this submarine to that cave where those boys and the coach were trapped. He personally helped transport it to those caves. He put it together, and he begins to work with the rescuers and these expert divers on how to operate this submarine. After several attempts, they decide that they do not want to use Elon Musk's submarine that he had put together for them. And it's interesting what he does next. They take the submarine, they put it to the side, but Elon stays behind and volunteers along with hundreds of other volunteers and just begins to ask what he can do. He doesn't jump ship because they don't use his gift. He doesn't sit around and cause problems because how could they possibly not use this invention, this creation of his? Don't they know who he is? Don't they know what he's accomplished? He's not offended. He's not whining. He's not complaining. He just shifts gears. He rolls up his sleeves and he starts to help in any way that he can. After the boys were finally rescued, he doesn't go back to the Thailand government and say, I need my submarine back. You guys didn't use it. You didn't access what this really gift that has an unknown value to it. He doesn't go and ask for it back. As a matter of fact, he leaves it behind as a gift and says maybe at some point in the future you would need this in another rescue attempt. As the media comes to him and wants to know, what he thinks about their choice to not use his submarine. In many interviews and even in any media outlets, they're trying to get him to say that the rescuers got it wrong and that even though the boys and the coach were rescued, that maybe they took too much of a risk, that this submarine that he had created would have been a better route. But he doesn't do that. He just simply says the thing that matters most is that the boys and the coach are safe. And I think the church could learn a lot from Elon Musk. He's brilliant, he's wealthy, he's talented. He was willing to use the resources that he had. But yet in the end, none of those things were used, but yet he was still available to get down into the muddy waters of that cave and say, what menial task can I take on? And I think that that's the kind of attitude that God is looking for from his people. What's something that if the church had this, we could do anything? What's the one thing that if we had, we would never be able to say, oh, we have too much of that, or we need, there's always something that the church needs that if the church has, we can do anything. And it's not the wealth of an Elon Musk. It's the heart that he had to make sure that those boys were rescued. We use the word volunteer a lot. But you cannot find the word volunteer anywhere in the New Testament. You cannot find it. It's not a Bible word. As a matter of fact, volunteer is a secular word. Ephesians 2 and verse 10 says, every person has good works that God has planned for us to walk in. The verse actually says beforehand, before creation, that God knew you and I, that He planned the times and the places that we would dwell. So He knew that in 2018, we would be in Florence, Kentucky of all places, or maybe you're watching online. He knew exactly the times and the places we would dwell, and He has planned before even the first day of this planet, God had planned that we would be here in this time, and He has good works, things that He wants us to accomplish and to walk in. It's called your calling. Your calling is what God has created you and I to do. Your calling is not your career. Your career is how you make money. Your calling is what you are created to do. And Jesus actually said, if you and I will walk in our calling, that even greater works shall we do than even what He did. And the Bible doesn't say in order to fulfill that calling, what we are created to do, it doesn't say that we should volunteer. It actually uses the Bible word servant. And that if you and I will understand how to be a servant, that is how we will walk out this path, this journey that God prepared ahead of time for you and I to walk in. It takes a servant's heart to fulfill the calling that God has created you for. We might start off saying, I want to volunteer, but eventually we have to leave that and go on a journey to discover a servant's heart. When you serve, you know it's about loving others. When you serve, it's about adding value. It's about kingdom labor, giving, sacrificing, working with a heavenly reward in mind. Not here, not now, even though that might come. The goal is a heavenly reward. Matthew 5:16 says, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify, watch this, your Father who is in heaven. There's supposed to be something about the things that we do that people actually see God in the things that we do. This isn't accomplished through serving or through volunteering. It's accomplished through serving. You see, if you're a volunteer, eventually you have an attitude that can create a problem. You start saying things like, you're lucky I'm here. You better treat me right or else I'm not going to volunteer anymore. If you don't treat me right, then I'll go negative and I'll tell everybody. I'll be disgruntled and I'll give you and give others a piece of my mind. Don't ask me to put myself out. Don't ask me to inconvenience myself. A volunteer has a self-fulfilling agenda. They have something they're trying to get out of the volunteer, and that personal agenda over time will create problem because it's not focused on what's best for the vision and the mission of the organization. It's focused on my personal rights. I'm not focused on others. I'm focused on me. But a servant is not me-focused, is not I-focused, but a servant says, I'll help, I'll fix that. I don't have any demands. I don't have any agenda. How can I best serve? Where is the greatest need? Whatever it takes, whatever it looks like, inconvenience me if you have to, because my job, my goal, my heart is not filled with something personal. My heart is to do whatever it takes.